Hi guys, welcome back. Today we are going to learn how to use the cosine rule. We've got 4 success criteria, and the first one is to recall the cosine rule and understand when to use it. So for triangles that aren't right-angle triangles, we use a different type of trigonometry. So we label the sides A, B and C, and the corners A, B and C as well. Now if that side is A, the corner or angle opposite it needs to also be A, and we use a capital letter for the angles. So if this side is B, the angle opposite it needs to be capital B. If this side is C, the angle opposite it needs to be capital C. This is the formula that we use for the cosine rule. C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cos C. We always label the angle C. So how do we decide whether we use the sine rule or the cosine rule? Well, we use the sine rule if 2 sides and 1 angle are given to us, or if 1 side and 2 angles are given to us. If 2 sides and the angle formed by them are known, then we use the cosine rule. Or we can use the cosine rule if all 3 sides are known. Now we've completed success criteria 1. So now we're going to move on to number 2, and this is to use the cosine rule to find missing sides of a triangle. So we want to find the length of the side labelled x. So we use our cosine rule and we label up the sides and the angles. Now the angle that we're given needs to be capital C. So the side opposite it needs to be lowercase c. It doesn't matter which one's A and B, as long as angle A is opposite side A and angle B is opposite side B. Now we can just substitute those values into our cosine rule. And because it's x squared, we need to square root both sides. So this is what we need to type into our calculator. So we do the square root of 13 squared plus 19 squared, take away 2 times 13 times 19 times cos 29. Remember to multiply 2, 13, 19 and cos 29 together. If you type it into your calculator correctly, you should get 9.90 centimeters to 2 decimal places. Here's a question for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to mark your work, press play. So we use our cosine rule to work out the missing side. The angle we always label with capital C, so the side opposite needs to be lowercase c. It doesn't matter which one's A and B, so we label this as angle A and the side opposite it as A, and this would be angle B, so the side opposite that angle will be side B. We then substitute our values into the cosine rule and square root both sides. So this is what we need to type into the calculator. Remember, you need to times 2 times 10 times 8.5 times cos 36. if you type it into your calculator correctly, you should get x equals 5.89 centimeters to 2 decimal places. Here are some questions for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to mark your work, press play. Here are your answers. So there's your green answers, there's your amber answers, and there's your red answers. And now we've completed success criteria 2. So now we're going to move on to number 3, and this is to use the cosine rule to find missing angles in a triangle. So there are 2 ways to find a missing angle using the cosine rule. First of all, I label up my angles on my sides. So the missing angle I label as capital C, so the side opposite needs to be lowercase c. This can be angle A, and the side opposite it is side A. This can be angle B, and the side opposite that angle is side B. And then substitute these values into the cosine rule, and then simplify it a bit. Now I take 145 off both sides, and then divide both sides by minus 144. Then I do the inverse of cos, which is cos to the minus 1. So I press shift and then cos on the calculator. So x should be 80.4 degrees. The second way to find a missing angle in the triangle using the cosine rule is, again, label up my angles and sides. And then if I rearrange the cosine rule so that C is now the subject, I get this. Then I can just substitute my values into this cosine rule to find the angle C. Type this into the calculator, and I should get 80.4 degrees. Here's a question for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to see what you should have done, press play. So to answer this question, we start by labeling the angle as capital C, so the side opposite it is lowercase c. We label up the other 2 sides as well, and their angles. We substitute the values into the cosine rule and simplify it a bit. So we get this. Then I can take 202 off both sides, and then divide by minus 198. I then do the inverse of cos, which is cos to the minus 1. So x equals 96.7 degrees. The second way we could have done it is to rearrange the cosine rule So again, label up my sides, and this time I substitute these values into the rearranged cosine rule. And if I type that into the calculator correctly, I should get 96.7 degrees. Here are some questions for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to mark your work, press play. Here are your green answers, here are your amber answers, and here are your red answers. And now we've completed success criteria 3. So now we're going to move on to number 4, and this is to apply to problem-solving questions. So in this question, we want to find the size of angle ACB. So we start by looking at the right-angled triangle, and we want to find the length of AC. So I use basic trigonometry and label my sides hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. I need to use the adjacent and hypotenuse, so that means I use cos. So I've got cos 42 equals 8 over AC. So I can swap around cos 42 and AC because AC is on the bottom of the fraction. So AC will be 8 over cos 42. So AC is 10.8 to 1 decimal place. I then look at the second triangle, and I can use the cosine rule to work out the angle ACB. So I label up my angles on my sides. I can then substitute those values into the cosine rule to find the missing angle. So the angle ACB is 66.3 degrees. Here are 2 questions for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to see what you should have done, press play. Here are your answers. So for the green question, we want to calculate the size of the length AB. So if we look at this triangle first, and we use the cosine rule to find the length AC, I label up my angles on my sides. I substitute the values into the cosine rule, square root both sides. The side AC is 6.4. I then use basic trigonometry to find the length AB. So I label up my sides opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. I need the opposite and hypotenuse, so I use sine 40 equals AB over AC. I can times both sides by AC, and then type in the side AC times sine 40 into the calculator. So AB is 4.14 meters. For the amber question, I want to calculate the size of the angle DBC. So if I split the shape into two triangles, and the first triangle is DAB, so I want to use the cosine rule to find the length of BD. So the length BD will be 11.7. I then use the sine rule to calculate the angle ADB. I times both sides by 10. And then I do the inverse of sine, which is sine to the minus 1. So angle ADB is 57.5 degrees. I then know angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So angle DBC will be 29.5 degrees. And there's my answer. And now I've completed success criteria 4. So now that I've completed the last objective, it's time to end the video. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you found it useful. Make sure to like and subscribe and be sure to check out the other videos on the rest of the channel. I'll see you next time. See ya.